So before I jump into the key things I think sellers need to know when selling a home in a slowing market, the first question, of course, is should you even sell? And this is a question we often get from some homeowners who either don't need to sell their home, they're moving and they could hold on to it, or they could rent it out, or they're not in a rush to move and can wait a little bit. So, the important consideration is now the right time to be selling your home. And again, I think, of course, the challenge with this a lot of times is, the point of that question is, will home prices be higher tomorrow, right? And the challenge, of course, is, and I encourage you to look back, I talked about some of the economic considerations we need to think about. We don't know, obviously, 100%, but we can certainly make informed decisions depending on the type of home and the area you're looking in and what your expectations are. So if you want a home in an area where prices have already declined 30% from their peak and you want to get that peak price, well, my instinct is you may have to wait a very, very long time to get back to that level, right? Whereas if we're sort of at the tail end of this slowdown and we start to see some signs that the economy might recover in the near term, a year from now or a year and a half from now, well, that's a completely different scenario. And especially if you're in a market where we think might recover relatively well and might see some appreciation in the near term, because it's going to be very important. If we think in the next year and a half you might see 5 or 7 or 8% growth, that's a lot of money on an investment property. And in a case like that, as a homeowner, you have to, of course, also make the other consideration about renting the property out if you want to for a year or a year and a half while you wait for the markets to rebound, which kind of brings up a whole other set of considerations, because selling rented properties is difficult, and getting the tenants to move out is also a challenge. So there are a lot of considerations when thinking about whether one should or shouldn't sell, or they should rent their property. And again, I think it's it's going to be a function of the type of home you have, what your expectations are, and the current market conditions in the local area that your property is in. Now, I want to jump on to what I think the 4 important things that sellers need to be thinking about when they're selling a home in a slowing market. So the first important consideration is doing, a proper market analysis for your home to understand what a realistic value is in today's market, and what's going on in your local market. So I did a previous video for home buyers that looked at sort of what price you should be bidding on in a slowing market, where I talked about how we come up with the market value in a slowing market. I would encourage you to sort of look at that, because it can be challenging, especially if you're selling a home in an area where prices have been declining relatively rapidly. So it's important to kind of come up with a realistic value range for the home that we think we get in that current market. But then the important other consideration is to understand what's going on in the neighborhood. I mean, how quickly are homes selling? What are the showing volumes like? Before we list homes, we call the other agents up in the neighborhood to understand what their traffic is like, how many buyers are they getting, because this really sets our expectations up and can help inform our listing strategy. If we're listing at a time where we're starting to see buyer demand gradually rebound, well, we might change our listing strategy. We may be a little bit aggressive, maybe have an offer date, whereas if it's very slow, we may not have an offer date and list at the high end of the value range, and just wait for buyers to come to the price that we want. But understanding the very local market conditions really helps drive your marketing and list price decisions before you kind of list your home on the market. So the second important thing we need to try to do is make your home stand out. Now, if your home has something really unique about it already, maybe a unique renovation, or that's going to stand out to a lot of buyers, or a unique lot or something about it, that's going to make your home stand out in a market that maybe has a lot of listings, we're very lucky. But if it doesn't have a particularly unique feature, we need to do our best to make your home stand out from all of the others. And we would never suggest renovating a home. Like, you don't want to spend $20,000 to do a kitchen, but we sometimes need to do minor improvements to a home to make it look better than the competition. And that includes minor improvements to the home, and of course staging the home to really make it stand out in the photos. Because even in a slowing market, Homes sell, but the homes that sell are usually the nicest homes, the ones that stand out, the ones that people share with their friends on Instagram, the ones that look the nicest. So, we need to do our best to make the home stand out. And it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but we in some ways need to spend a little bit more money than we would have in a market where everything sells and everything gets 20 offers, because it doesn't matter what it is. It's going to sell, with 15 offers. In a slowing market, we kind of need to spend a little bit more time and money to really make the home stand out, so that it's the home that most buyers are attracted to. So it's going to sell a little bit more than all of the other homes that are sitting on the market at that time. So the third tactic that, can work, and sometimes we use in a slowing market, is to actually offer the buyer agents a higher commission. And again, it's not something that we think we want to do, but offering more to the agents. But the reality is, in a slowing market, it can sometimes give you a bit of an edge. And how does it give you an edge? Well, if we have $1 million home, giving a buyer agent an extra 1% would be $10,000. And that's going to have a bigger impact than reducing your price to $990, right? So what does a slightly higher commission do for the buyer agents? Well, if the agents and the buyers are looking at a bunch of homes, if they're making a slightly higher commission, the agent may be more motivated to sell your home if they're going to make a little bit more money, especially in a slowing market. And this is a strategy a lot of builders will use on new home construction, and even resale properties. A lot of times agents will use this, and they've already started using this. We look on the MLS now, and there are more and more listings right now listing with a higher agent's commission. The typical commission that a buyer gets is 2.5%, and we're seeing 3% and 3.5% right now. Now, again, the flip side to this is a good buyer's agent should not be swayed by making more money and nudging their clients to that home. But certainly some agents are swayed, especially in a slower market. And our job when we're representing sellers is to, of course, do what we think is in our client's best interest. And it's not it's not something we would recommend for all homes. Again, if you have a unique home that's going to sell and it's going to stand out instantly, and we're confident you're going to get an offer, you don't need to pay the buyer agent more. But if it's in a slowing market, in a slowing area where the competition's very tough and it might be on the market for a while, it might be one thing that makes the home stand out of the other 100 homes available for sale. So that's one other strategy a buyer can or a seller can use in a slowing market to make their home stand out. So the last thing we need to think about is, how do we deal with offers when they come in particular when the offers are not what we expected. If we're selling a home in a slowing market, it's possible we're going to start getting offers that are well below what we think your home is worth. And I think when it comes to dealing with these, it's very important that as a seller, your decisions are based on information rather than your agent just telling you to accept whatever offer you get in. When the market started slowing down in the GTA, for example, in the spring of 2022 this year, when the market started slowing down, we had a lot of clients who had bought homes and needed to sell their current home. And many of them were worried because they weren't getting a lot of showings. Bidding wars had ended. They'd been on the market for 2 or 3 weeks. And in virtually all those cases, the first offers that we got were terrible. And our clients started panicking, and they were worrying, and they were leaning towards accepting them. But many of our agents basically said, listen, this is too low. We're confident you're going to get a better price. I think these buyers are just trying to take advantage of the uncertainty. I think we should wait. And in all those cases, waiting ended up getting our clients more money, right? And I think this is where we have to understand the very local dynamics in the housing market. And again, our agents didn't just tell their clients that. They tried to give them information to say, why they think that. And again, we can't predict the future, but we can only kind of try to inform and educate our clients based on what we see in the local market dynamics. So if we think we can get a little bit more, we're not going to go for the lowball offer. We're going to be patient. Now, on the flip side, if we see the momentum slowing down, we might take a little bit less, right? And again, this needs to be based on data. It's not just, I think you should take a lower offer. We see sort of the signs of further slowing down sort of on the ground very early. So perhaps we might. But on the flip side, if we're listing a home in November, for example, and it's not great, but we're seeing the first signs that the market might rebound in the new year, well, then maybe our advice to our client is just take it off the market and wait till January. And, you know, again, when we think about how the markets change, we on the ground see the changes way before they're in the headlines. You know, I started writing about sort of the slowdown in the housing market in February and March, way before all the statistics showed a decline. All the headlines at that time were still the market's crazy and there's tons of bidding wars. But we had seen the first signs, fewer showings, fewer offers on offer nights, more offer nights failing. The flip side to that is a lot of times we can see the first signs of recovery before it's in the market. We get more traffic on our website. We get more inquiries from buyers. More buyers want to meet up to talk about buying a home in the new year, right? So if we have a listing in November and it's not great and the offers aren't great, well, we're not going to be in a rush to sell below market value. Our advice might be just take it off the market right now because we think the market's going to be better. And again, we can't predict the future, but again, all of this needs to be based on data and trends. And some of it is not on the market statistics because once on the market statistics, they're obvious, but on the earliest trends that we see on the ground that can help our clients inform their decision making. So those are the key things that we need to think about when we're representing sellers to help guide them in their decision making in a slowing market and try to navigate and decide what offers to accept, what list price to go for, when to be patient and when not to be patient. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you're looking for advice and guidance to navigate this volatile and challenging real estate market, you can click the link below to set up an appointment with me personally. For home buyers, I'm offering for a limited time a 50% off discount code for my home buyers bootcamp. The code's 50 off. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me at askjohn@movesmartly.com.